Today we're going to talk about eco-anxiety and the changing climate, and we're specifically talking about this because you recently just lived through one of the worst heat waves in Canadian history, at least in Western Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was, I mean, you're not in BC, but in BC they hit almost 50 degrees Celsius. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm looking out my window right now, and it's like, there's just an orange tinge to everything.
yeah, it sounds like the entire place is just kind of a hellscape for the past month.
Yeah, it's well, I don't know, like living where I do, the winters are like pretty rough, and you just get very excited for the summer when spring comes around. But unfortunately, like we did have a very good summer at the start, but then there was a day where it was like 39, almost 40, and an entire town in where was it, BC,
Yeah.
just completely burned down due to the heat.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't help that I got like my second vax, like right when that was happening. So I just felt so nauseous, and I was not a fan of the heat. But yeah, and then I guess after all the fires, the wind blew over all the smoke, and yeah, the sun's just like red. The air, everything just smells like there's like a campfire.
Well, it looks like Canmore also. There's like wildfires now.
Oh
That
damn!
are
I
out
didn't
of
even know
control.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just everything's
Oh,
very
God.
hot right now.
Yeah, and it's weird because every once in a while we'll just get 2 days where either the smoke makes it seem like it's like 6 in the morning all day, like completely just fogged over or smoked over.
Well, yeah,
And then
sorry.
yeah, like some nights there's just crazy lightning storms, and
Right.
it's just wild. Like,
No,
I don't know what's going on.
I noticed like the last like 5-10 years, it's just been like progressively more like if you have a really hot day, you're gonna have a really cold day. Like after, like it's more kind of just extreme. Like it's not just like it's getting progressively hotter. There's just a lot of like instability in the weather patterns.
Yeah, it's I definitely noticed it like 2 years ago that the weather it started kind of tripping out, and it's just gotten trippier ever since.
Damn. If only you were like a spokesperson for climate change.
I feel like we could change some things.
Might be too late. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this, is that there's kind of a tipping point, and there's like more and more studies coming out that, I mean, they talked about the cascading effect, that it's like once permafrost starts melting, once glaciers start, melting, and once there's like flooding, there's like a certain amount of carbon. I think one of the main things, it's a specific, there's a specific term for this theory, but it's that at one point there's going to be methane released from the permafrost, and methane takes a lot longer to like clear up than carbon dioxide, and that once that's in the atmosphere, that's going to greatly accelerate the rising temperatures. So it's like it's going to exponentially get worse, and it at least feels, and at least according to like some scientific indicators, looks like we're like at the beginning where even people that were somewhat in denial about it or skeptical of it are noticing, because it's kind of hard not to notice.
Well, I'm sure by the time that methane releases, we'll all be living in space cowboy Jeff Bezos' colony.
Well, that's interesting. I saw one interview with him, and I have no understanding of the science behind this, and I'm curious if he does also. But he thinks that a good solution would be to move all industry and anything that creates pollution to space, which I think, like, in layman's logic, that makes sense because space has no like actual ecosystem. I remember going through all the comments on the video, and it was just a lot of people saying like, well, no, like all of the industry will fall down on us. So it's like, also, I don't know if people understand how space works, that it's not just like up, like we're in space, it's around us. And there's like orbits, and there's certain controlled systems of how celestial bodies move in space. But
Well, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, just just like something short about that. Like yeah, you just said a pretty big word, celestial objects. You know, we are peanuts compared to that, and I think it's kind of ignorant to say that we understand it to the point where we can begin to use it for, especially something as I don't know, as human as like production or manufacturing.
Yeah, well, and also the other thing he says in the interview is that this won't be achievable for like far beyond like his own lifetime, which is like not a great solution if it looks like a lot of the problems of climate change are going to be faced by our generation and the coming generations, if there
Well,
are coming generations.
yeah, that's like what everyone said in the 50s, where they're just like, there might be a problem, but I'll probably be dead before it happens.
Yeah.
Like, or people after me are gonna fix it. I can just keep doing whatever. Like, I don't know. That attitude is never helpful.
No. Well, it also reminds me of there's a Futurama episode where they're in New York and this gigantic garbage asteroid is coming towards the Earth, and the reason why it exists is because at some point in the past they realized that they could actually just put all waste, just any sort of toxic waste or just basic like plastics and stuff. They could just make a gigantic ball and just throw it off into space, and then I think they have to, but it's like coming back towards the Earth, and I don't know. Maybe that will happen when Bezos tries to use space as like a waste disposal mechanism.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. I can just imagine when we start doing stuff like that, it's gonna look like that. You know, an Isle of Dogs, like where all the dogs are, just that it's all garbage and
yeah, or
just
like
just something
Wally.
like that. Yeah, like Plastic Beach, like
Yeah.
just
Well, and we
something.
already have a plastic beach. Like there's Plastic Island.
Oh yeah, no,
That's what that album's based off of.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I
I'm
don't
sorry,
know.
I was about to make a really bad like Temptation Island joke.
We don't have to confess that we watched that on this. It's okay. Um,
Okay.
no, but I think that you bring up a good point with our generation, because I think we're like looking ahead to the future, and the future within like not like 50 years from now, 60 years. Like I think we optimistically think like, oh, when the things get their very worst, we'll be like in retirement homes. We're going to be we've already lived our life and everything, but there's a good chance that it like accelerates, and now it's looking like a lot of these models that were made in the 90s and 2000s were actually optimistic. The same ones that people were saying were like overly apocalyptic and like doomsday and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's why do you think our generation is so, I guess, apathetic? Like it's because of this stuff. Like we're kind of facing this kind of potential future of a lot of misery and instability and stuff like that. But if you have any thoughts on that also.
Yeah, well, first of all, like, I remember talking to you about it. I forget who came up with it, but it's that theory that the more reminded you are of death, or natural disaster, the more you are to think about like your worldview, and the more you want to like push it onto others.
Oh, like terror management theory.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think of that firstly, and also that the pandemic, definitely when it started, I paid a lot more attention to my health. All of a sudden, when I'd feel a weird pain or sensation, there was like one moment where I was like, I could have cancer and not know. Like I just those sort of thoughts. And like I was saying, as the environment's gotten weirder and the weather, I started seeing thunderstorms and wildfires as more of a threat, like going like, okay, this isn't like just something that happens every once in a while now. This is something that is proven to cause immense damage, and it's getting more frequent.
Right.
But in regard to, I think, why our generation is so apathetic, you talked about it a bit in your 2020 video, just kind of like this helpless kind of feeling that a lot of people have when it came to politics around that time, when we were in the middle of the pandemic. And I can't say I know why, but just like a word I think really resonates with that statement is like helpless. Like I think our generation really is noticing. Um, I don't know how much we can do. I don't know how much uh, time we can bring back.
Right.
But I think in another way, it's kind of created this other perspective where um, it's created almost more positivity in the world because I've noticed a lot more people are just turning to humor now, and like TikTok's huge, and just that kind of like short style comedy is back, and I think it's probably a form of escapism, but I think it was birthed from that kind of, well, we don't really know what to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like this, it's something I've been thinking about where it's like our generation collectively, like at least in in like developed countries like that have a lot of money and a lot of security, and it's not like a pressing issue because there is like actual like climate
Yeah.
refugees right now, especially in like we've offset a lot of the um, like byproducts of consumption
Yeah.
onto
I
like
was
poorer countries. No, it's more like island nations
right.
that have to, and they are the ones that are usually in charge of a lot of the industry. Like obviously like sweatshops and like
Right.
factories and stuff. They're like offset to poorer countries because the labor is cheaper. But then also they have to deal with the consequences of supplying us with all of these things, and eventually that will probably lead to migration and perhaps more like xenophobia, I'd assume. But what I was getting back to was that people like in Canada or the U.S. or England, um, just countries that are somewhat secure from the consequences of climate change, at least for a decade or so before it really gets bad. Um, our generation, it's like this really like I find myself, I'll see like an article or something that's just like um, this new study came out and it's just like there's like there's complete destruction of biodiversity, or I think it's called like the water bulb effect where like we're unable to actually sweat, has already happened in like certain countries, which
Ooh.
is like unheard of. And I get like anxious and I get kind of scared, and then like my first thought is like, because you want to do something about it, you kind of like you go through your head like, oh, what are some solutions, and you feel some guilt also because you're like, oh, I consume things a lot,
Hmm.
I'm probably kind of lazy with recycling or whatever, and then you go and you think again like, oh well, this problem's way larger than me, like it doesn't matter if I like turn the lights on or off when I leave my
Yeah.
house because like there's like there's giant like oil tankers that are they use the equivalent energy of like hundreds of thousands of cars, just like
Yeah.
one.
Well, I remember.
So
Sorry, go
yeah, no,
ahead.
no.
Yeah.
But it's just eventually I reach this point where it's just kind of okay, I'm just gonna look at something else. Like it's just one of those few things where I'm like, oh, okay, I
Yeah.
can't like this seems way. I feel very hopeless and small, and also with COVID, it almost feels like a trial run of how we deal with it.
Yeah.
Which is if there was literally any militant political action to stop environmental degradation, it would immediately be labeled as like totalitarian or authoritarian by
Yeah.
like some groups, and then there would be a lot of paranoia and like libertarian people coming out and going against the government, and
Yeah.
it would just like the way that we appear to work when we collectively have to take action against something is very bad. So it's just like a lot of hopelessness, and then yeah, I end up on like TikTok and I'm just kind of laughing at things for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good thing with like the recycling priorities because I remember I wasn't a big fan of social studies in high school, but something I did really take for it or take from it was just learning, I guess, more about our the situation of the environment and globalization and stuff. And in grade 10, I learned about how much water and energy like a Levi's factory um, goes through, and that blew me away. And then in grade 11, when I was asked to write like a paper on what we could do about the environment, and they kind of want you to almost do like the just like the cliche things, but I thought I'd take like a different approach because it was kind of how I was feeling at the time. I was doing online school. It was kind of, pandemic was recently starting, and I just kind of thought, like, I think the problem with saying turn off the lights, carpool, recycle, unplug things is that they're such small things that it's just so easy to overlook them and see that, well, the person living next to me isn't doing this, so why should I? And like you said about the tanker ship, it's definitely just this feeling of like lost hope.
Well, it's like the free rider principle. It's that it's really hard in large groups for people to collectively do something good, because one person can just go, oh, if everybody else does it, there's not a huge effect if I decide not to do it. Like if I decide not to participate. So I can actually not participate plus reap the benefits, which is like, if you think about it climate change wise, it's like, oh, I can continue kind of consuming. I think most people are like this. I can keep eating meat. I can keep, I'm sure most of the people listening to this have like 8-9 things plugged in at once. Like they got their fan going, maybe they have something in the microwave, they got their laptop, their iPad, their phone, like they're charging a bunch of stuff, and like they're kind of thinking like, yeah, I care about these things, but it's like I'm not going to actively go out there because like the risks to rewards of like kind of advocating for change, it's like there's an entire political mechanism that is like always there that's ready to just shut it down and like make fun of like environmentalists and then also it's like even if you do get people to change, like the kind of mainstream has kind of, they've welcomed it in a very surface level way, like they're like, oh yeah, this is good, but then they don't actually do anything, which is almost worse than just people full on attacking it. But
one way I see it is, I think a lot of people right now almost feel like that feeling of going to a new school or joining a new group, or this kind of anxiety, because at least personally, I feel like with everything that's happened politically and environmentally, there is a change kind of on the horizon. Like I feel like something big is going to happen. And something that's, I think, scary about that to me, and I think a lot of other people, is that our world has definitely been more divided, but it's scary how connected we are, yet divided at the same time. There's so many different political groups and then subgroups of those groups, and so many different ideologies, and just so much stuff to believe in, that it's very hard to want to join this global effort when like everyone, it's just chaos. Like there's no real sense of unity in the world right now.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately the only time some semblance of unity would come is when we're actually facing a catastrophe that legitimately affects everybody personally.
Maybe that's the big change.
Well, because the problem is even the pandemic, lots of people died, lots of people were affected. I have a friend who, like, he's super athletic and he has no underlying health conditions, and then like a couple of weeks after he recovered from COVID, he started getting much like heart problems, and now he won't be able to play any sports until for a couple of months at least. He has to go to the doctor. Like he's out of breath even when he's my age. He's out of breath even when he just gets up and walks.
Well, and hey, so it's like, I don't know him personally, but the Toronto Raptors, they really, I think they took a bit of a beating from COVID. I think quite a bit of athletes and sports teams took a beating from even just light contact with COVID.
Yeah, no, like there were lots of people affected. But the thing is that not everybody was affected. There was a very loud group of people that will proudly tell you, oh, I don't actually know anybody that had COVID. So really think about it, actually. Because do you know anybody that has COVID? And then it's like, and then if you tell them that they do, it's like, oh, well, you realize that like a lot of those tests are like faulty, and that like it was actually like the flu, or it's actually just a cold or something. And so it's like they're not personally affected. It's like literally you would need this to affect every single person, or at least a substantial group of people, which is what it seems like COVID has, is because, we're very cynical about it, but enough people have been vaccinated and enough people socially distanced and like did all of the measures and tried to stay at home that at least it looks like we're coming out of this, at least in some areas of the world. Yeah. But it's like with climate change, it's like, how are we going to get it to it? Because it's a less obvious thing to affect people. Right. There's the first people that are going to be affected are going to be the people that have the least amount of power. Yeah. And it's incredibly unfair. It's going to be these immigrants living in poor housing. It's going to be these workers living in factories and sweatshops that are going to be affected, and then they're going to have to migrate, and that never goes well. Like, whenever you have people of different color or creed interacting with other people that have a severe sense of nationalism and sometimes just straight racism. Yep. And then, you add in the resource scarcity and stuff like that. It's they're going to bear the brunt of this for like quite a while, and there's still going to be the people that have the money, that consume the most. They're not going to feel anything. And you can literally go all the way up to the top of the chain. These billionaires, they can literally have like hideouts, they have yachts, they can go to space now. And they could really avoid most of the stuff that's happening, and they could be dreamers and very idealist about the potential solutions, but they're in no rush to enact them. Like, at least from what it appears, how they discuss things. Like, Bezos seemed very kind of, this would be a cool thing. There's no urgency. There's just this kind of either naive optimism or a lack of regard for the rest of human life on Earth.
When you say like going up to the top of the chain, it just makes me think that it's just a very dark, almost survival of the fittest, but I don't know if I would call it fair in the past couple of years, or not a couple of years, past couple hundred of years.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's become increasingly less fair in a sense.
Yeah,
especially recently.
If you just go back to, and I'm not too familiar with this field, but going back to like wealthy people hundreds of years ago, just how that type of privilege, I guess, how it's evolved to now where, people can go to space, people can completely ignore what's happening.
Well, sometimes, like, I went to the Palace of Versailles when I was in Paris, and like you see like he was the last king before the French Revolution and everything, and he was dethroned partially because of his decadence and
dude was
how much
goober.
Money. Yeah, no, he had a lot. He lived in absolute luxury. Like, he had like a house full of, or he had like a room full of mirrors, and he had like an entire garden, and like, but it's like at the same time, like, it's very impressive, like the amount of resources, and it's disgusting. It's like, wow, this guy was really hoarding everything, and at the same time, a lot of like at least Canadians, like middle class Canadians, it's like, and even like lower class Canadians, like they can get food from literally anywhere in the world. They have access to all types of media. They mostly all have phones and laptops and stuff, and they can hop on a plane, go anywhere. There's like a...
Hey, I didn't join this call to get guilted.
No, but we're all kind of... We all, at least of this kind of middle class... we all kind of have access to that amount of consumption, which is like, obviously that would do something to the earth if such a substantial amount of the population literally consumes like as much as like a king would in France. And it's like, also the king in France had no incentive to revolt even when things were going terribly in France. Why would any of us, when we're like, yeah, we can be depressed about it and act like we care, but it's like, why would we really change things if it means, I can't get that burger?
Yeah. No, I think this has probably been said a lot, but I don't know where I read it. But it is just kind of funny to think that pretty much every person in a developed country has the privileges that a king would, like 200, 300 years ago. It's very It's just weird. And yeah, no, I guess I've never looked at it that way. Like, if everyone had that amount of, or at least that ability to hoard as much as a king, just what that would do.
And like, I mean, I'm sure that I'm gonna have some historians in the comments that are going to literally tell me like,
Oh yeah,
like
I'm
how many cows and like sheep and like pillows that like King Louis has. It's like not a fair comparison, but like, you know, like I know that I don't literally mean we are all living like the most powerful man in Europe, but we are probably like each one of us is probably consuming more energy. I mean, they were they were fairly sustainable back then, I think, compared to us.
I know
We go through like a crazy amount of plastic just like cooking and stuff like that.
I know one family where one person works in environmental work and the other kind of something similar, but they own I think they have like 6 cars.
Hmm.
It's very, and just they all have like I don't know, just like all those like fitness tracking devices, and it's just I don't know,
Right.
it's just crazy. Like, even if you pride yourself on liking nature in this era, it's hard to avoid, I guess, overindulging in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I do think that it's just part of our. It's. I was having a conversation with another person. It's kind of back and forth. It's either the system has made us more consumptive, like we constantly want to consume, or that is something innate in like human behavior.
Right.
And it's like to not really know whether it's one or the other is a bit risky to then launch a full-on revolution against the system, and then to find out. You know, I think there's a Father John Misty song of it's like things that are helpful to know after the revolution, and you know he goes through this whole like they tear down the system, and it seems like an anarcho-primitivist kind of state is formed where it's all like nature and stuff, and then they start realizing how much it sucks, and it's just like a lot of like survival, and they have to get their own food.
Yeah.
But then it ends with him going like, oh, but there's like some very like clever people that are inventing these things that will help us
Right.
start to, you know, make life a little bit easier. And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a chance where we could tear it all down and then just end up in the exact same place.
Yeah, no, like as much as currency and things of that nature have caused a lot of problems, I just can't see us living in a world where, like you said, someone doesn't start making some technology and someone doesn't start trying to find a way to limit other people's access to it through means of profit or status. We just kind of do that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and it's like that might be just a part of our. I mean, is capitalism just kind of the general direction we as a species would go 10 times out of 10? Like if we were to do it all over, or would we have diverged at some point and tried to set up some sort of communist state, or would we have tried something that no one's ever even like thought of or considered?
We just gotta run the simulation a few more times. see what
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It really feels like the only way to go.
Yeah, I know.
Or else
like,
it's a very uncomfortable tearing down of everything.
like it's also just very. I do just find it interesting that like you said it. I think a lot of people have. It definitely felt that way, but like the pandemic was like a on like Parks and Rec. There's an episode where I think Leslie has to do like this town. Oh, what is it? Like the town gets hit by like a fake flu, and they have to run like this.
Oh,
fake
it's like a simulation.
yeah,
To like
the
for a
pandemic
health emergency.
Yeah, it's like you said. It felt like okay, this is a light version of something bad. Let's see what happens. Like run the simulation.
Yeah.
And we're here now, and like half the world is vaxxed and is going back, and half the world is still like knee deep in the pandemic.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, I guess that's why there's that whole strand of accelerationism, which we've talked about a few times. That's the idea that we basically just speed up the process, like whatever we're doing. Like absolutely no ethics when it comes to like AI development, no ethics when it comes to automation. Just go, go, go. Like hit the capitalism gas as hard as possible, to the point where either we reach some utopia or it leads to absolute destruction. Like just speed up, because I mean, one of the arguments is that there's so much suffering now that it's like it would be unethical in a way to like let it go on. So why not just go really, really quick? And I mean, it has recently become a more right-wing practice, because they've kind of, firstly, because one of the founders of Accelerationism, Nick Land, has become very far right, but also because it does kind of suggest that it's like a survival of the fittest sort of thing, which they love those like hierarchies and stuff like that. But there is something about it where it's just like letting go and just letting things happen as quickly as possible. It almost relieves the tension, like, of what do I do? Like, am I just existing on this earth and then it's just going to become worse and worse in the next 10, 20 years? Like, at least there's some like, oh no, just make it like 3 years. Yeah. So you don't have to wait. There's less dreading. But I don't know. It's very kind of dark.
Yeah, it's, I'm just excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I think that's most of us. We're just kind of along for the ride. I mean, I feel like we could potentially, to kind of wrap this up, talk about, which might be hard, might be a little bit difficult, but it's like, it seems like there's like a gridlock in this discussion where it's like there's this problem. It gives us a lot of anxiety. How do we manage that? And do you have any like potential insights into like how the worst effects of climate change could be mitigated, or at least we could adapt to them, I guess?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it would be like a flaky answer, but I think for people to understand more, and just in an objective way, not like trying to get them to see a certain perspective, but for everyone to, I guess, look inward a little more and understand more about their behavior, about human behavior in general. Because sometimes I just see the way events unfold and stuff. It just seems like people's priorities and sights are so hooked onto an ideology or just something that's very far from any type of personal development. And it just seems like they could really use, I don't want to say like a look in the mirror, but just a better understanding of what they are, maybe what their personality actually is. Just kind of a deeper understanding of what we are, I think, will lead us to, first of all, understand more about other people. It'll help us, I think, be a little more empathetic, but it'll also, I feel like, help our world, because we'll start to maybe recognize our faults quicker, or just stop going down these sort of chaotic rabbit holes.
So it's more of like a bottom-up approach, like from the individual.
Yeah, I was also thinking we could just do, I guess it's accelerationism, but we could do what we did in like the 20s and 30s and just vibe, just go crazy. Just some like Great Gatsby vibes. Everyone just
just the Roaring
'20s. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's what I was thinking. Just as a solution. I was actually thinking, we just have like a full-on dictatorial international like state where
just start printing money.
Yeah, yeah. We just start making as much money as possible. we and it's actually, I think we just like elect Jeff Bezos to be like the world leader.
Oh, right. Yeah. World leader.
Yeah. He has control over the World Bank.
Yeah. We get rid of any separation.
Yeah. No, I feel like this is this is manageable, and I think it would also do well for people's mental health, judging by how well Amazon workers feel. So
I guess we would all get to experience that the helplessly crushing hand of Jeff Bezos.
I just sometimes I get like my bill, just to open up about this, because I feel like everyone that craps on Amazon is, everyone has given Bezos some money. Everyone's given Jeff a little bit of their cash, and it's like, and it's like I keep seeing the Prime bill pop up, and then I'm like, okay, I have to cancel this because it's like $8 or something, and because I don't even order anything from him, and it's like, Jeff just took a little bit more every month.
That really sucks to think about it that way. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't used Amazon a lot. I think I bought some sunglasses once, but I feel like no matter what, Jeff somehow took a piece of me. Just like he did everyone.
No, I mean, yeah. Oh well, so I guess the conclusion of this was all hail Jeffrey Bezos.
Yeah, I mean, to quote Bo Burnham, Jeff Bezos, you did it. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I can say. I feel like it's better to just kiss his ass for what may happen in the future, or what will inevitably happen in the future. Like you said, him being our world leader. So yeah, no, it's a good conclusion. I think we should put aside our differences and love billionaires.
Okay, well, on that note, everybody, remind the billionaires in your life how much you love them, and we'll see you next week.
It's gonna be like a new type of Hallmark card, like next to like
the billionaire section.
Next to like Mother's Day and birthdays is, billionaires.
All right. Okay. Goodbye.